The next one is you understand where your spouse is coming from. This usually requires a lot of listening. At the beginning of the message, we gave a verse that says, everyone then should be what? Quick to listen and slow to speak. Understand where your spouse is coming from. And I think it's really important that sometimes that we just stop and quit trying to come up with solutions or control, but sometimes we just need to listen to what they have to say. And the other thing that I want to say in this statement is, it is never an option to use the silent treatment. Ever. It is never an option to use the silent treatment. Okay? Relationships with your spouse are way more important than the silent treatment. I think the silent treatment, you're a baby if you use the silent treatment. I'll just say that. You are. Don't use the silent treatment. Communicate. Listen. Talk through the problem.
All right. And the next letter is N, and our N is never. Never let the sun go down on your anger. Whatever the issue is, resolve it. Ephesians 4:26-27 says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. We believe that if we run into a problem, it's not the end of the world because we know how to resolve the conflict. Conflict resolution in a marriage is a good thing. It's just, wrinkles are a part of life, and you just need to get the hot iron out and smooth out the wrinkles and work at it. And it's fun to make up when you're done, too.
It is. And we'll talk about that next week when we spin the wheel of hormones. All right, inform your spouse about your life. Okay? Guys, it is not a waste of time to talk about the small, seemingly insignificant things that you did during the day. Your wife cares. She wants to know about them. It's not beyond her to understand them. And vice versa. My wife works in the home. She homeschools. She's had a busy day at work. And when she wants to share, I want to know the details of her life. They matter. And sometimes we get in our head that, well, I'm home, I'm finished with work, I'm going to leave it there. Your spouse deserves to know what you did with your time. They deserve to know the details of your life and what happened. They deserve to know, how did the breadwinning go today? I mean, it matters. And all those little things can add up to make a big difference and bring a lot of value to your relationship.
All right, letter C, I guess. Calm down. He always says things.
Take a chill pill.
He says, take a chill pill. If you lost your temper, you have already lost the argument. You have been completely disqualified once you lose your temper. It's over. It's over. There is no looking back. I wanted to say a couple things. The first is that, as I know as a woman, if Brent lost his temper at me or at the children, my trust level in him would just sink to the floor. And my feelings of being safe with him would just sink to the floor if he started popping his top and losing his temper. It's just, you want your woman to trust you and feel safe. You want to be able to protect her. And she will not feel that way if you are someone who loses your temper. On the other hand, I also wanted to say, on the other side of the coin, don't pester your spouse and push their buttons and antagonize them to lose their temper. Okay, you're disqualified. You're kicked out of the game. That's totally against the rules. And you sometimes know them so well that you know what their buttons are, and you're like, I'm just going to get them. Okay, that's against the rules. That's not allowed. So on one hand, calm down. And if you have to leave the room because you're about to lose it, leave the room. Walk around the house a couple times, whatever it takes. But on the other hand, don't pester them and aggravate them and push their buttons to cause the argument to escalate into places it just shouldn't go.
And then A is assume the best. The world tells you never to assume, but you know why? Because we always assume the worst. But I'm telling you, in marriage, you need to assume the best of your spouse. Assume the very best, because if your spouse disagrees with you, it doesn't mean that they hate you or that they think that you're stupid. okay? It just means that they disagree with you. And they may just think differently about some issues. And that's okay. But sometimes we don't assume the best, and therefore something that should just be a molehill becomes a mountain in your marriage because we assume the worst. And I think for the benefit of the relationship, like I said, this is the most valuable earthly relationship that I will ever have. I should assume the best of her every time.
T is for toxic. Secrets should be avoided, and all secrets are toxic. Just avoid the toxic secrets, but all of the secrets are toxic. Secrets between a husband and a wife are just poison. If you've got something in your life and you're like, I'm just not going to tell him about that, that's just poison. That's just poison in your life. As an example, as a hypothetical, if somebody came up to me that knew Brent when he was younger, before I ever met him, and wanted to start spilling beans about something in his life, in his past, I should be able to look at them in the eye and go, I already know that about him. I'm his wife, and I already know that. The same thing for me. If somebody came up to Brent, whom I had known when I was younger, and just wanted to spill everything about everything I ever could have done in my life, I want him to be able to say to them, I already know that about Heather. She's my wife, and we don't have any secrets, and she knows that. I already know that stuff about her. And then once again, it makes him a safe place for me to be because he knows any secrets I might have. And he says, okay, I love you, and I'll guard you if any of that ever comes up again. But also, don't start building a life that you're not going to tell your spouse about. Don't start building habits that you don't want your spouse to know about. If you're afraid to tell your spouse about it, that's probably a huge hint that you probably shouldn't be doing it. So anyway, all secrets are toxic, and they just should be avoided at all times.
And with that goes hand in hand with I, which is invite. Invite your spouse into your life. Your spouse should be the world's expert on you. They should know exactly what makes you tick. And that's really important that we have that kind of transparency and purity in your marriage. They should know everything about you. You know what? I would even say that it's important that you share your weaknesses and your temptations with your spouse. They care about you more than anybody else. They care about the direction of your life more than anybody else because it affects your family. And I think it's really important that in our marriages, of all places, you should be able to confess sin and repent in your marriage and find an incredible amount of forgiveness in life because you are journeying together. It's togetherness. And the enemy wants, more than anything, to put a divide in you where there's a part of your life where she's not invited in or where he's not invited in. And that's where the enemy will wreak destruction in your life. Invite full transparency, full communication. Guess what? You ain't perfect, and neither am I. But if you try to take that imperfect part of your life and divide it away from the image that you're trying to make in your marriage, you're going to mess it up. That's not biblical. What's biblical is full surrender to Jesus Christ and full surrender to each other, because that will protect you from the blows of the enemy.